Welcome to the Dark Zone, an adventure racing podcast.
You are capable of doing so much more than you even think you're capable of. It is slightly easier when you know something about what you're doing and getting into. Although even if you don't know what you're doing and what you're getting into, just jumping in there with the whole idea about having fun together as a team and nutting your way through it, even if it's not perfect, that's quite an appropriate approach. Don't expect to get it right the first time. If you do, celebrate.
Well, you know, for me, the action is the juice. I'm in.
I need you, brother. Please, Sensei, please.
Courage, Bob.
Courage.
That's it. Courage. Yeah. Yes.
Thank you. Hey, thank you, Sensei. Thank you, Sensei. Thank you.
Say the word, Chef.
Let it rip.
Adventure Enablers, the leader in adventure race tracking, timing, and race directing, brings you the 2026 Shenandoah Epic Adventure Race, April 11th to the 12th. Registration is now open for the 15th year of one of the East Coast's longest-running 24-hour adventure races. Trek, bike, paddle, and navigate through Virginia's stunning Shenandoah Valley and the rugged Massanutten Mountain Range. New for 2026, multiple transitions that'll keep you moving and strategizing for the full 24 hours. Whether you're an AR veteran or hungry for your first epic challenge, this is your rite of passage. Push limits, chase sunrises, write your story in the wild. Register now at adventureenablers.com. That's one word, adventureenablers.com. So recently, I was introduced to a new product, which is the Nuatak, a carabiner water bottle. A family friend is part of the team putting it together, and he shared it with me, and I want to share it with you. So Nuatak it's a carabiner bottle. It has the carabiner built directly into the handle. Also, you can clip it to your pack, your bike, your harness, whatever you want to clip it to, and it will hold whatever's inside, cold for 40 hours and hot for 20. So long-lasting insulation. It's a nice thing to have in your pack, in your bin along the way. On top of that, Nuatak, is part of their social responsibility, gives back 5% of their profits go to protecting lands and lives impacted by climate change. So check it out at nuatak.com. That's nuataaq.com. If you use the code TheDarkZone, you can get a 10% discount and some free shipping. So take a look at this new bottle. Obviously, anything that we get from that code usage will be poured right back into the Dark Zone and support the podcast and all the sponsorship activities that we have around the sport. So once again, take a moment, check out nuatak.com. Take a look at that water bottle. If you like it, you want to order it, feel free to use that code, the Dark Zone. You get a discount there and some free shipping. And if you like the item and the product, let us know what you think about it. We always like your feedback. Thanks. Welcome to the Dark Zone Adventure Racing Podcast. This is your host, Brian Gatens. Episode 149. The Wonky Donkeys, they had a great experience at the Legend Adventure Race put on by Chris Dixon. Em and Becca are a barrel of laughs and good fun. And I knew when I recorded this episode several months ago, I was going to save it for the bleak midwinter. For those training in the Northern Hemisphere, this is a great way to kill an hour on the bike or the rower or the trails or the water, wherever you may find yourself these training days. So sit back and relax and enjoy this episode of The Dark Zone. And remember, if you keep racing, we'll keep talking. We have the Wonky Donkeys, one of the best names ever in adventure racing. Good job, Wonky Donkeys. We have Becca Lunnon and Panietz, and they are on the show to talk about their win at the Legend, how they met each other, their non-adventure racing success. Becca has a pretty cool thing about her experience with climbing hills that I'll let Em say all about because Becca will never talk about it. But we had them on the show today. Em, I'm going to come to you first. Tell us about the team and how you guys got together as racers.
Well, first, Brian, thanks for having us. We love you. I love you. And the podcast. And all the adventure racing podcasts that I've been learning from. We'll talk more about that later. Wonky Donkeys, I think is a very recent thing. A year ago, I wanted to try adventure racing because I finally felt like I had a little bit of fitness. And my brother's been adventure racing XPD for a number of years. I think he has 5 under his belt. And anything my older brother does, I want to do.
It's not an uncommon sibling dynamic.
Yeah. And I always want to do better. So just to prove myself. And so I asked Becca if she would do adventure racing with me, but we knew nothing about it. So we asked my brother if he would do the half course of the Legend last year in Victoria. And we got another colleague of ours who is also a wilderness paramedic like us. And we made a little team. We had some interesting experiences where Becca and I stopped talking on the course completely. We are not in a relationship, but it felt like we were getting a divorce.
That's not also that's not uncommon either, by the way. The in race, we're done talking to each other. That's not, that happens a lot.
We didn't start talking for another few days after the race. And I think we told each other, no, we're not going to talk. We're going to calm down for another couple days and then we'll come back together. I think it took a couple months to iron out all the wrinkles.
And that was last year. That was during the Legend. That was the half. That was you, the two of you, your brother, and a fourth person for the half course.
Yeah. And we decided we wanted to do another adventure race, full course. And our main goal was going to be communication. We can do better. And let's be best friends still after a race.
Yep. Yeah. And Becca, I'm going to kick it to you in a second, right? But right away, you jump right into the deep end of the pool when it comes to like the racing and the relationships. And like, I know a married couple who race together and they say, when we race, we're not married. Like they basically say to themselves, like there's the race course and then there's the non-race course. And there's that intra-race dynamic that comes up. So Becca, over to you. Becca, what's your rebuttal? What's your retort to that? Well, first of all, how did you get into adventure racing?
I knew nothing about adventure racing until Em just asked me one day if I wanted to do an adventure race. And of course, my response was, what's that? And then when she said, oh, it's this really cool thing where you can run or walk and ride and paddle. And, it's a bit like orienteering. You've got to find these checkpoints, which is just like a great big treasure hunt for adults. I was like, oh, that sounds like fun. I had no idea what it entailed. And even I think after doing the half, still didn't really have any idea of what the full thing entailed, even the day that we were due to start the full course. You can't know what you don't know, can you? And yes, we've done adventures that have been multi-day and with some sleep deprivation, but nothing like an expedition-length adventure race.
So you had the confidence of ignorance, right? You had no idea what you're getting yourself into, so you're like, well, I'll figure it out. And so back up a little bit. You've mentioned that you're both wilderness paramedics.
Yeah.
Right? Am I right about that? Okay. So clearly you're comfortable with yourselves caring for yourself in the wild. And so therefore, is it safe to say that you thought that your comfort there would translate over to, well, no matter what happens during a race, we're going to figure it out because we know the wild so well?
I think, yes. I think also just being paramedics, that's our main role, and we have a normal roster that we work part-time so we can have more adventures. But being a paramedic is basically communication and learning how to be comfortable in the uncomfortable. And if you can get those two things, you'll have a pretty good career, unless you're unlucky. And then being wilderness paramedics, with which we've only been for just over a year. And it's an additional skill. That just means that we have those skills out in the bush as well.
So clearly you were coming to the table at your first race with a sense of a generalized understanding of outdoor movement. You then had a layer on top of that, the adventure racing, which was sounded like a brand new thing. And Becca, you were saying you had no idea what it was even when the race started?
No. I had no idea. It's probably part of where our issues came from to start with. Right. And maybe why we did a bit better this year.
Yeah.
So when you got into... Go ahead.
I was going to say, doing stuff with them is always a fun adventure. It doesn't matter what it is. You're going to have a really good time and there's going to be plenty of laughs, generally speaking. So I didn't feel like I needed to necessarily know. I figured she was going to teach me. We were going to learn from her brother. That was probably a bit of a...
High expectations, Becca.
Yeah.
Well, the thought being was the idea that you were going into this experience where clearly your brother's skill set was big in terms of your understanding, because you'd have a guide along the way, someone who would kind of mentor you through the experience. You thought kind of that way a little bit. Brothers still being brothers, he might have left you out there. But the idea that there was this whole experience of that, and then you knew that he'd fill those gaps in, and then you had your own strength and capacity. That's what you were kind of hoping for. So how did that first race go? Like, what was that experience like for the team?
For the team, it's hard to know, I think, because I was so caught up in the fact that we didn't work well together, and maybe Em was as well. I don't actually know how your brother or Elvin, the fourth person, found it. I mean, we completed the course and we did it probably faster than we thought we were going to. Our main goal was to actually have some decent sleep. So I think we had 5 and 6 hours on the 2 nights, the first night and the second night, and then we finished on the third day. So from that perspective, which was about the only goal that we had going in, it was a success. I'm quite sure that they were aware that by the end of it, we weren't really talking to each other. I don't know that it affected them particularly well. They're very chilled out people, so they were happy to just kind of go with the flow, but it obviously hadn't affected us.
What's nice is, and we cut to the chase here. So I'm speaking obviously to 2 racers who had that experience. You process that, and then you come back and you go to the Legend, which is the full course. You become the first female team, two female members to finish, and then you were 3rd overall. So clearly you closed that gap a little bit. Teamwork, communication, getting along, patching up those conflicts is a very common thing in adventure racing. Can you walk our listeners through how you did that?
We talked a lot over this last year, mainly about communication, different communication styles. We listened to different podcasts, lots of adventure racing podcasts. I think I listened to almost all the Dark Zone episodes and the Checkpoint episodes. Yeah. Right. And just learned as much as we possibly could. And then we did more adventures together during this last year as well. We even did a mini practice adventure race that my partner printed out maps for us. And we did almost 48 hours with no sleep together, trying to push that so that we were in a sleep deprivation zone where we would be grumpy and see how we would respond. So we took a lot of time this year to keep practicing it.
So it sounds like there were really 3 things that you did that helped you out. The first thing, you built your base of knowledge, right? You listened to the Dark Zone, the Checkpoint, a lot of good adventure race media out there. You have the Ben Racing podcast, you have Disability out there. There's a lot of really good content that exists. So you built your knowledge. You then had adventures together, right? But those weren't races. Those were just the 2 of you out in the woods doing that. Yeah. How long were those adventures together? How long did you extend that time out to?
How long was Granite Tour? That wasn't a good one.
3 days. 4 days, 3 days. We'd had the food drop.
4 days.
So we had a number of walking adventures. Ran that 3-4 day period. It's not the first time we've adventured together, but I guess the first time that it was in relation to training for the adventure race. Did we do any biking stuff? Not so much this time.
But on Granite Tour, we were trying to get this peak for Becca, because Becca's, I'm talking about it. Becca's completing a peak baggers list in Tasmania. That's 500 peaks, and some silly bushwalking club put the list together. And if you complete all of them, you're like the bushwalker in Tasmania. And there's quite a few older gentlemen who have completed it, but they've taken most of their lifetimes to do it. And Becca's only 5 peaks away from the total 500, and she'll be the youngest person to have ever completed them and the only female. And so she has a lot of hard peaks left, and she asked if I wanted to join on one called Granite Tour, and it didn't go well. We didn't talk about our expectations clearly before, which is very similar to race, where you need to have your expectations ironed out. And I ended up turning us around 2 kilometers from the summit on a 4-day walk because the scrub was so scrubby. We were traveling 2 hours for 500 meters. it was so slow. And I realized I was running out of food and the weather wasn't going to be great overnight. And we did not have an emergency shelter, which was my mistake. We left both of our tents where we were coming back to. And so we both finished that one pretty grumpy, but that was kind of, I was a bit grumpy. It set us up well for the adventure race, I think. We had really long, in-depth talk about expectations and how we needed to manage that better.
Right. And then clearly having those, and that's a very common piece of advice that we hear in the dark zone when we talk about it from both adventure racers and people who research adventure racing. They say setting those expectations in advance, having that communication is huge. The third thing you did was that you created simulated races. You mentioned that you had 48 hours where you stayed awake. So you did those things together. And I want to come back to those three things, but I definitely want to pay attention over to Becca and her peak bagging and the fact that there's 500 and the fact that there's 5 left. So I'm no math major, but you've climbed 495 of these peaks. And M mentioned that you're the first female and your age. So if I may ask, how old are you?
38, I think.
Okay. You had to stop and think about that. Okay. So you're 38 years old, right? And so the youngest, probably one of the youngest ever, and obviously the first female to do it. You got to walk us through this a little bit. What age did you start doing it? How many, 495 peaks is a lot. What is the schedule like on that? How many a year do you do?
Yeah, that's a good question. It varies. So I started in 2012 when I moved down to Tasmania. All of these peaks are in Tasmania, which is a particularly hilly, scrubby like you've never seen before. It's not the kind of scrub you're used to anywhere else in the world. It's got a reputation, but with some quite impressive non-scrubby mountains as well. And I moved down here, didn't know who I was. I was in my, early 20s, not much self-belief or self-esteem. And I fell into walking by getting a job in an outdoor store just because of my smile, apparently. And so I started bushwalking, absolutely loved it, went a little bit crazy, and all my days off I went walking. So at the start I was walking as much as I possibly could. During the last, what's 2012 to now, 12, 13 years, I've had some times where I've done less walking because I've been at university or trying to get jobs or whatever it might be. So, yeah, it's fluctuated over the years as to how many and what the schedule's been. And it hasn't always been that intense because there was a time there where I wasn't sure whether I was going to complete the list. But now that I'm so close and there's only a handful left, it's going to happen, and hopefully it'll happen by the end of next summer.
So I did some quick math while you were explaining it. So over the course of the last 13 years, you've climbed 495 peaks. That's 38 peaks per year. That's the average per year. There's 52 weeks in a year. Now, I'm assuming some of those peaks are on the same trip.
Yeah.
Yeah. So it's not like 38. And this is fascinating. And this is right into, racers who adventure. And so what was your longest peak bagging trip? Did you go out for 3 days, for a week, for 2 weeks? What was your longest single time you were out there?
You did just get back from a 10-day trip, just the other day.
Yeah. I think 12 is probably the longest that I've packed for. 12 or 14, but I'm not sure we're out for the full 14. Generally speaking, because these days it's much harder to do food drops, especially where I'm walking. You have to carry everything in and out. And 14 days, you start to get a bit too heavy with your pack to make it. And generally speaking, it's a small state,
it's counterproductive,
so
right? Yeah, it's so heavy. The amount of gear you have to carry in relation to how quickly you could travel, it falls away. And plus, you mentioned it's very scrubby. It's very hard brush. It's very hard travel. There's a lot to it.
There are some mountain ranges that are much easier. So there's one in particular that I'm thinking of, the Western Arthurs, and there's about 45 mountains on that. Or 45. Each of the peaks are given a certain number of points. I think maybe it's 45 points worth of mountains, so it might be 20 odd mountains. So that's one that's really easy to rack up a lot of peaks in one hit. But then you can also walk for 10 days to just get one mountain in the middle of nowhere.
How technical is the climbing? Does it ever get technical, like ropes and helmets, or is it mostly just trails to the top?
There's a lot of off-track stuff, so no trails at all. There's one or two mountains that are considered to be quite scary and people have died because they've fallen in the wrong spots. But they're not technical. You're still scrambling, not roping. And then there's a couple of summits that it's accepted that you've got to the summit, even if you haven't technically touched the highest point of the highest rock, because they're these great big dolerite pillars that they're like skyscrapers, that if you wanted to get to the top, you'd have to use ropes. And some people do. But it's accepted that you've got to the top if you just stand at the bottom of those pillars as well.
That's the standard rule that they have. They say if you get that close, you're close enough and call it a day. That's fascinating. I think when you hit 500, we're going to be back on the show to do a 500 episode only. And as I say that, Emma's high-fiving herself as I mentioned her get Becca back on there. So I'll have to drag you back onto the show. So clearly what the two of you have done is that you've used your respective outdoor experience. You've come together as a team. You had that experience, and you mentioned how you worked on the knowledge, you worked on the venturing together and the simulation. You said that you talked a lot about that. Now, you mentioned expectations. Did you also spend time in those conversations talking about like your personal understanding of what would trigger you during it? And did you talk about your teammates triggering? Like you would fall apart when you did this, like you skipped eating, you skipped sleeping. Like how into it did you get both intrinsically to yourself and extrinsically to each other?
Yes. For the first part of the question, I believe I'll let Becca answer the second part of the question. We definitely did a lot of, in this situation, that's my hardest, reaction time, or I don't like when you start acting this way, or I feel like you're not listening to me when you start, running around and trying to look for the checkpoint and you're just muttering to yourself over the map, Becca. And I just want to grab your attention. I feel like a little kid again. And I'm like, pay attention. But I feel like my gremlin, as I started to call it during the race, comes out really randomly. Whereas Becca becomes a gremlin always between 3 and 5 a.m. So it's really nice because then I know. And it's like, okay, she's going to have a hard time for the next 2 hours. I can start taking over navigation. Or if I'm having a hard time, then Becca would have a navigation and we just work around it. Unfortunately, on this race, though, for the Legend, which was only a couple weeks ago, I was sick about a week and a half before the race. I thought I was on the upward tail, and then not sleeping the first night, it just came back full force. Yeah. I developed a lung infection and, coughing and hacking on the course. And then the next 12 hours, Becca caught it. So then she developed it from the beginning, which was like the worst sore throat. And at one point, Becca was just like, I don't want to eat. I don't want to drink. I don't even want to talk, let alone breathe. And I'm just shouting at her going, eat it, Becca, eat it.
Right.
Keep going.
Well, because you realize that, so on one hand, Becca was pushing back on ingesting anything because of all the pain attached, but you both realize that if you don't feed the engine, the machine breaks down. So, Becca, how about you, the intrinsic versus the extrinsic idea?
I think we did do it. The risk of trying to identify your shortcomings in yourself is that you don't have that outside view. And I think we're actually quite good at giving each other feedback in a way that didn't automatically make the other person defensive. And because we had so much practice, we could fine tune that as we went along and as we developed ideas about the things that triggered us. And we also ended up coming up with a little thing for when we got into situations where we weren't able to find the right words for something. So we came up with the word pineapple. And if any of us said pineapple, we needed to stop whatever we were doing. We needed to think about how much we loved each other. We needed to smile and we needed to say, I love you, just to bring ourselves out of that deep, dark, why are you doing this? I hate this kind of frame of mind and bring us back to what we were doing. And even had some little, I don't know if you have them over there, little lollies that are little pineapples so that we could be like, pineapple. We don't really need to use it, to be honest. We ended up using it just as extra sustenance and lollies because we had them. But it was really handy having that backup for if we got to that point where we actually couldn't put things into words or we didn't know how to put them into words or we just knew that the other person was on such a shaky ground that we didn't want to just break the fine little bit of control they might still have over themselves. But yeah.
I think we did a couple pineapple moments where we weren't sure. And the other one's like, oh, no, I'm good. And you're like, oh, okay, keep going.
There's an American TV show called The Bear, which is about working in a restaurant. It's you might have head nods. It's made its way to the side of the world, and working in a kitchen in a high end restaurant is very stressful, very hard, a lot of moving pieces. And they talk in one episode of The Bear about how they have this system where if you take a closed fist and you tap it to your chest in front of somebody else, it's a nonverbal way of saying, this is really hard. I know we're having a tough time right now, but we're going to get through this together, right? It's not doing the whole, we have to stop, we have to talk it out, because you're in the middle of something. You can't stop the food service. You can't stop taking care of the customers, but it's one person's way of saying to the other person, this is hard. I know this is upsetting. We'll figure this out later on. And when you mentioned the idea of pineapple, right, you choose this word to use, it sounds like it's the same thing, right? This is really hard. I'm having a hard time, but we can't get into it now. But I'm seeing in you the stress that all this is causing, and I'm feeling it too. And we're going to keep moving forward. Did I capture it correctly?
Yeah. And immediately we say, I love you, because we both need that reassurance.
Yeah. Well, I got to tell you, I was in a race one time. Buddy of mine, we're exhausted. It was really, really hard stage. It was like day 2.5. And we got into it on the water, we got into it with each other, from yelling at each other across from kayaks. And our two teammates, by the way, were silent. Like they were in the boats with us and they weren't saying a word because they knew that we were fighting. And we pulled up on the shoreline and we gave each other a big hug. Like we're just kind of like, that was really hard. We're going to move. And we, same thing, when the race was over, we talked it out, right? I think the important thing for the listener to hear is that even champion adventure racers, and that's what you are now. You're champions. You won. I know. Well, you're looking at each other. How dare I give you credit? They're very embarrassing. But yeah, you're both blushing, by the way. That but even adventure racers who are at the top of the podium, they have that same experience, right? So that's not something that only rookies have or something that only beginners have. It's a common human dynamic. I want to jump to the legend. I want to jump to the race you just had, because you came in third overall and you won the female division. The two of you came across the line, the first female. Walk us through that race. Chris Dixon puts a great race on. It was well covered. It was beautiful. What was it like for you on the course? How did you experience it?
I'll start the first day. Okay. Well, we started with a paddle, which I am horrible at. I hate paddling. Hate it. I've gotten better a little bit. Luckily, Becca has recently taken up pack rafting, so she was our motor and fine-tuning directioner, which was nice. But I've been working with Jen Seeger, who I learned about from your podcast. Thank you, Brian. And yeah, she's taken my fitness to an extra level over the just last 3 months, which was amazing.
Really impressive.
And so we're at the back of the pack.
Under the back of the pack.
Yeah, for the first little bit. And then we got off the kayak and we were just like, oh, thank goodness we get to get on some bikes. And then we got on our bikes and we were like, okay, let's go. This is fun. And we just got really excited. We were just going for it. And there was a little hike in the middle of the biking leg that we were concerned. Well, we kind of knew the area. We've both been up that area, Hart's Mountain, but like 10 years ago. So we knew it was pretty, but we didn't really remember the area. And it was a little bit of off-track stuff. And I was like, Becca, do you have the energy to just go for it? Because I want to be off of this area before dark, and we only have a couple hours. And Becca was like, yeah, let's go. So I went out the front on the trail, and I just pushed as hard as I could, and Becca's jogging behind me to keep up.
So was Chris Dixon. He was also coming out to try and get like videos and stuff of the teams at sunset, and he was struggling to keep up as well. When Em says she's out the front and she's pushing, she has these ridiculously long legs that move incredibly fast, and she looks like she's not even breaking a sweat, but it's almost impossible to keep up with her. I can't keep up with her without running.
By the way, those teammates are the worst. I've been there myself. Like, they're barely working and you're like dying behind them. Yeah, I know. I can relate to that. Yeah, exactly.
I was like,
oh, good. And then as soon as we got to the off-track section, I was like, okay, Becca, your turn. And we just swapped. like without a question, like Becca lead us because she is the best scrub leader in the like ever. And she's just a little bulldozer and I can barely keep up with her. So I'm like huffing and puffing and we just kept swapping. And we ended up getting off that little area in front of most of the teams. There was only a couple teams in front of us, but we didn't realize. And then all the teams that saw us were like, where did you guys come from? And we're like, we don't know what we're doing. We don't know how to pace. Oh, we'll see you soon.
Right. Oops, we got to go. Bye now. So let me ask you. So as a two-person team, do you have a primary navigator or do you both look at the maps together?
We both look at it together. Becca's really good at the overall picture. She's so unbelievably quick at pattern recognition. As soon as we get the map, she's like, okay, we're going to go here. And I'm like, don't talk to me. I need to read each individual checkpoint. And then I feel like I'm better at the more minute details when we're coming into a checkpoint.
Yeah, Em definitely picked up a couple of mistakes with that. And caught us.
It's almost like Becca, you could deliver the team 95% of the way there, and then M kind of narrows it down into the checkpoint.
Yeah, generally speaking. Yeah,
more or less, right?
But
It's a generalization. Yeah. So how did you find the navigation during the race? I know with these big 5-day races and the big maps that they use, very often the navigation is I'm going to use the word easy, not the right word to use. It's not as minute. It's not as specific. The flags tend to be in broader, bigger areas, generally speaking, not always. Was that the experience at the Legend?
I think so. It's hard to know not having any other adventure race experience, to be honest, for comparison. But like if you compare it to orienteering, it's like you could do it almost without a compass, really.
Yeah.
So in that respect, easy, I would say. In terms of like, there was a bit more choice on this one than the last one, and I think that's where you either made your mistakes or got ahead in some of the legs where you got to choose which of the X number of checkpoints you were going to go for. And I think that's where we just made some good choices.
And that's the catch-22 with the big navigation, big maps, right? You have a general idea of where you're going, so you head off in that direction. But if you're wrong, you're in trouble, right? Because you've gotten really far in the wrong direction. So you have to make certain you stand. So you get pulled into, well, it's a big map. It's a big, I'm going to head in that direction. Next thing you know, you're way off, right? But it sounds like that you were able to. So navigation, it sounds like was just steady. The two of you had a solid navigation. Did you have any big navigation errors? Any point where you were just walking in circles?
No, we had a couple of near misses where we planned one route and then as we were getting towards it, we'd be like, oh, actually, let's have another look at this. I don't think this is the best way. Let's actually do this for these reasons. And made the right choice every time with that. I think there was maybe 2 or 3 of them that we kind of caught ourselves out on just from our initial thoughts to the fine tuning. But no, and like everybody, you sometimes overshoot something you're looking for and you come back for it, but nothing that was significant or that caused us hours like some of the other teams had.
Yeah, no mess of like you're lost, you're getting dark, you're walking in circles. That wasn't any part of your experience. How did you do with the weather? What was it like during the race there weather-wise?
It was brilliant. It was the best Tassie weather. Like we were expecting it to be horrible. Tassie weather is like 4 seasons in one day, and this was like a week from heaven, really.
Yeah, the pictures were beautiful. I mean, the pictures were just really something else that Chris caught and the race photographers caught.
Yeah, it was really good weather. Yeah, I think the first night was maybe the coldest. I don't know what actually temperature it was, but the forecast around that area was 3 degrees Celsius. I'll let you work that out per Fahrenheit, Brian. We were on a river, which is a little more upstream, so a bit colder. And it was dark. There was a mist. We couldn't see the rapids coming, but we could hear them. And we'd hear it coming, and I'd be like, Becca, there's a rapid coming. What's going on? Becca would be like, I can't see anything.
Right. You just got to go. Right. You just got to just go as hard as you can. Keep the boat moving. Yeah.
Yeah, so that's what we did, using like Becca's pack rafting knowledge. We're like, paddle hard, left, right, paddle harder.
Yeah.
No, we just fell in over and over and over again. And we were getting so cold. I was shivering. Becca was starting to shiver. We ended up putting on some emergency extra warm gear at a checkpoint. And then teams started passing us. And we were like, quick, let's latch on to one of the teams and see how they do it, because they're doing so well. And we came to one checkpoint. I think it's your favorite bit of the whole race. We got to one checkpoint on the river, and all the female teams got to the checkpoint at the same time.
Oh, hey guys.
Yeah. And so then we were like, oh, well, we'll just try and like sneak behind them and see how they go down the rapids. And Becca was like, Em, they're like going super slow and they're back paddling and they're just going boop, boop, boop down the rapid and they're not falling in. Let's try that. Well, okay, I don't want to fall in again. Let's do whatever.
Right.
And we did, and it worked so much better. So we're so thankful that they caught up, that we could, keep going. Because at one point we had a conversation saying if we fall in again, this is probably going to get serious. We're going to get really cold.
Yeah. There's the combination of the cold, the nighttime paddling, the rapids. It's that Venn diagram coming together. We had that last year in Ozark, right? And of course, without fail, your headlamp starts to die. You know, you're going through like the stars and the moon. You're looking for the rocks. You hit every single rock in the river. It's not pretty, but you get it done, right? It's one of those things. So that was a good experience for you that you would put that together. What was your sleep strategy like? Are you a 3 hours per night? Did you not sleep at all? By the way, for the people at home, I asked this question, they burst into laughter, the two of them, just for the record, for those at home right now. So I'm sure it's going to be interesting in a second. And as Em points at Becca, it sounds like Becca has to answer this question. And by the way, they're blushing again for the record. Go ahead, Becca.
A little bit embarrassing. We came first in the women's kind of division because we are complete novices, and we had a little bit of an idea of what we might want to do just based on what the nutritionist that we were using, that we also got the details for off you, Jill. She had given me a brief. This is probably what you want to be doing in regards to sleep. But on the very first day, as we actually it was the second day, everyone's kind of clear about trying not to sleep on the first night, and that wasn't going to work for us in the middle of the river anyway. When we were freezing cold, it wasn't an option. We needed to keep moving to stay warm. So coming into that, the next day, we start off on this 50, 60 kilometre walk, and we're right near the women's teams because we've come in kind of with them and we've left kind of with them. And we're like, right, whenever we come up to somebody, and we spend a bit of time walking with Rootstock Racing, we're like, we're going to ask them what their sleep strategy is. So we're doing research on the go here.
What are you guys doing out here?
Yeah. And
you look awfully tired. Racing, what are you going to think of that?
So we'll do that too. But Rootstock Racing were the most lovely, generous, supportive team out there.
They're great. They're a lot. They were a lot of fun.
Of women that we look up to immensely, and they were really generous. They're like, look, we've once heard this expert advice that 1 hour is to survive. 2 hours are to maintain, and 3 hours is to race. And we're like, right, that kind of fits with what we've got from Jill too. Let's go for 3 hours. And it sounded like they were going to go for 3 hours. They ended up going for 6, but that's because of where they ended up getting stuck under power lines with compasses that weren't working. So they were forced to have a longer sleep. But the 3 hours worked brilliantly for us. So we had 3 hours the second night. We were trying for 3 hours on the third night because that first sleep had worked so well for us. But we were sleeping at a transition area, and it was at the paddle, and one team decided to get really confused and kind of head off the map, and so they had to launch the rescue boat because they weren't replying to their little GPS messenger.
I watched
device.
that. We watched that team paddle far away, and they were going, and then they slept overnight. They stayed out there. And we were all at home, kind of watching that team, and kind of like, oh, sorry guys, like they just kept going and going and going, and they came back eventually, but they were far off.
Yeah.
So we were trying to have our snooze then, and they were launching the boat, and that definitely woke us up. So I think I had about 2 hours. I don't know that Em had a decent amount in that 2 hours. And we were both lying there awake, and I was like, are you awake? Yeah, let's go. And so we went. We had a half an hour kind of lying down later that morning, just when we were feeling pretty average at that pre-dawn kind of stage. It wasn't really sleep. It was just a lie down. And then the last night, all of the volunteers at the transition areas were just like, you're doing so awesome, you're doing so awesome. And we're like, we've got no idea where we are. And we feel like maybe the women's teams are hot on our heels because we can't be that far in front of them. Like, they're professional teams. We totally don't know what we're doing. So instead of getting 3 hours on the final night, we're like, let's have half an hour and go.
I had convinced us that, we didn't realize that when you come into a checkpoint, you can kind of check where teams are. We had no idea. You know, you kind of like, they write down your time. You look at boxes. We're just like, we're coming into a checkpoint. We don't know what we're doing. Let's just grab some stuff and go again. we finally caught on that you can kind of see how the other teams are doing in comparison, because you then move your bike box to a certain area.
Right. You get sense whose bikes are not there, who bikes are there. Right. Exactly.
Exactly. And so then we're like, oh, hello. We're just moving it into a pile where there's like no other boxes. Little did we know they were already moving boxes before ours, you know, like in between. They had so much logistics. I'm like, Becca, we're winning. Oh my God, we're winning. We're going to win this thing. So for the last 2 legs, I was like, Becca, we're going to win. We got to go. We cannot sleep.
Meanwhile, they were just moving the bike boxes away from you. You never saw the bike boxes.
Yeah. And so we got so much energy from that. I feel like if you're ever in a low point, just convince yourself that you're in the lead.
That's great strategy.
We didn't know there was some people ahead of us, but because with the paddle you could actually get a time credit, and we also knew that some people, at least one of the teams that was ahead of us, was no longer ranked.
That's what we thought.
Yeah.
Right. You were like, okay. But once again, too, because the two of you were so new at this, you were just you were making these guesses along the way, and we'll just keep racing. So I like, by the way, I like how you developed during the race your sleep strategy. Congratulations. In the race itself, you developed your where are we in the race strategy during the race itself, right? So
inaccurate.
Right, just and completely wrong, but you just kept pounding forward. The good news is that the stories you told yourself helped you go faster, as opposed to we must be all the way in the back, we should slow down, right? You averaged up, right, Becca? You kind of pushed yourself forward, saying, "Look at us, we're doing great."
We did have a moment at the end of the walk where we were like, oh, we've chosen the easy route, the route that doesn't involve any scrub bashing, because we looked at the scrub and we're like, that's gonna slow us down so much. It's a really short and efficient way if you go through a couple of checkpoints and through the scrub, but it's going to be quite a long amount of time. So we actually went for staying on the roads and going a bit further, like maybe another 5Ks of walking. And that was after that point, we didn't see anybody, and we'd been seeing teams before that point. We were like, oh, we really messed that up. We are totally at the back. And then we come into a transition point, and someone's like, oh, you're doing really well. No, you're way ahead of everyone else. It was like, oh. And just that change from we're not doing well to we're doing really well, it was amazing, that mental, like that flip around.
Yeah, we saw some teams at the transitions. Saw my brother, who was also racing, and he was like, you guys are doing great. And we're like, are we? And he was like, you guys are actually racing.
The brother who did the race with you last year, he was racing too. Where did your team finish in relation to his?
We beat him.
By the way, credit to you waiting 39 minutes into the episode before pointing out you beat your brother. You should have started with that.
He was it was his wife's first adventure race ever.
Right.
And he wanted to do one with her. And so they were having, a fun adventure race.
I don't care. You beat your brother. You beat him. That's all that matters. Don't go qualify. Who came in first? You did. Remember that. Bring it up at Christmas time at the Christmas table. When you go around, what are you thankful for this year? I'm thankful I beat my brother during an adventure race. So clearly you had these emotional ups and downs predicated upon where you thought you were in the race, right? And we're all alone and we're lost and they're going to come rescue us and we're destroyed. We're in last place. And then we're winning the race. We're going to be on the podium. You went through all of this. And so how did you, but it sounds like you just kept pounding forward, right? You just ignored all those signals and we're just going to go as fast as we can, as well as we can.
I think I listened to the Wild Women's interview, who were also racing on the course, and they said it a few times in the podcast. You just keep moving forward.
Right.
And so that was one of our things is like, are we still moving forward well? Is there anything we can do to improve our moving forward?
Right.
Let's keep going. We can still keep going, so let's do it. At one point, it was the last leg, and Becca was absolutely wrecked because now she's at the height of the sickness. Her sore throat was just awful. All the food that we'd pretty much packed, that Becca had packed was dry food.
Yeah,
chips
tough to
was
put
just down. Was so hard for her. And so we had some wet food in the transition. So we're just grabbing all of that. so Becca would have something to eat. And luckily there's a gas station or petrol station open. And we got her some lozenges. And then that just like boosted her spirit so much. Which was so lucky.
We saw you on the map. You came off the course. It was you came off. It was in that town to the east, and all the teams were there at one point. Yep, we saw that. And so clearly, well-timed petrol station was huge for you, right, Becca? Like you got the lozenges, you got something wet, and that helped your throat out.
Yeah, which is so good. But then on that leg, I'm like so convinced that we're winning. I'm like, let's go, Becca. Keep pushing. Keep going. Eat the food, Becca. And we ended up having to walk our bikes 10 kilometers almost.
Yeah.
So that we could ride them back down. But we were hoping to ride them a bit farther and not just walk them. But it was dark. It was misty. There was a lot of loose rocks. I cracked it. And I was just like, I'm going to die. These rocks are trying to kill me.
Right.
I'm not riding this bike anymore. And Becca's like, you're going to be fine. You're not going to die. Everything's okay. Just keep going forward. I was like, okay, Becca, I'm just going to keep going. And then on the way down, I'm loving life, bombing it because now we can see the sun's come up. Yeah. And I'm like, let's go, Becca. And Becca's just like, I feel horrible. You're going too fast. I can't, like, you're going fast up the hills. I'm trying to eat, but I can't eat because of my sore throat. So I just take all of her gear. I just keep stopping at the top of every hill going, eat this, without any weight on. Then Becca starts bombing it.
Right.
When I was sick enough that I couldn't breathe and eat at the same time. So I actually had to stop, which I hate doing. And so I was almost like, do I just stop eating and not worry about it for the last little bit of the race? But you never know quite what the race is going to entail. And then it's like, no, we're going to actually just stop so that you can actually eat something and breathe at the same time.
Well, the concern there is if you stop eating that late in the race, the body could you could bonk and the body could give out and you could be, so you had to give the time back to do that. You know, and you really, the two of you bring alive really two parts there about adventure racing dynamics. One is no matter how you feel, it's going to pass. Right? If you feel great, It's going to go away eventually. If you feel crummy, it's going to go away eventually. Right? That's the thing. And it sounds like, and this is hard on a team of two as opposed to a team of 4 or 3, is that everybody feels bad at some point during the race. You can't have everybody feel bad at the same time. And when you get down to a 2-person team, you run the risk that if you both kind of go in the gutter, you kind of fall apart a bit. And it sounds like you exchanged the emotional carrying of each other along the way. Is that accurate?
Yeah, I think our lowest point together was the last paddle, where we started the paddle in daylight. We knew there was a couple bigger rapids. I was scared of one because there's a couple logs that we knew of. And I wanted to get that rapid over and done with before dark. We ended up getting there at the time where they made a decision that we had to portage around it because they said it was too dangerous. So we were the first team to portage that rapid, which I was perfectly fine with.
Yeah.
And the volunteers kept saying sorry. And I was like, no, that's okay. Let's do it.
I'll go as long as you want.
Yeah. And so then after that portage, it was just darkness. And we were just both feeling our backs. And we're just like, when is it going to end? And we were both pretty low. And neither of us were really picking it up. Once we got to the transition was amazing. But my partner ended up coming to say, like, good job, keep going at that point, which was lovely and gave me a huge boost. But it felt like it took a little bit away from our team. Because then I was distracted during the transition. Becca was now doing her bike box kind of solo. I was just chatting to Ben, and Ben's like, I can't tell you anything, but I love you. And so then we kind of felt like we kind of broke apart a little bit. Ben felt that, and he was like, I need to go. And I was like, yeah, I think you need to go. I'm going to go share a pineapple with Becca.
Right.
And then we came back together.
Pineapple time. Right. Right.
I wanted to give you space with Ben as well. Like, you needed to have that too. And it was fine. But I didn't actually communicate that with you.
Yeah. But we came back together. We had a tiny little sleep, half an hour. And then I was like, we got to go. We're winning this thing.
Right.
Which we
still
weren't.
winning. Still number one. Right.
Yeah.
Well, and I will say that one of the most challenging dynamics is a late in the race paddle stage at night. Like, holy cow. Like, that is just, paddling is just puts me right to sleep. The rhythmic, the back and forth. It's like, I mean, the stories we could tell about, we were in Scotland one time, and it was Shari, Pete, Jim Vernon, and I, and our boats were tied together, and Shari was in the first seat. She looks back and the three of us are sleeping, like, out cold, and she's dragging the whole boat along. I mean, like, not even pretending to try and stay awake, right? So you brought back that memory to me of, like, holy cow, here we go, right? But clearly you're on the back end, like, you're coming to the south, right? When you look at the race maps, you're south, and you had that little stop and you're paddling. And did the bike, it finished on the bike, correct? Was it, or you trekked in, right? You finished on the bike. So what was the finish like for you? Walk us through that. What was it like coming in?
I think for me, my first question to Chris, who's the race director, was, who won?
Right.
I
still
still
and is
thought
it
it was
us?
us. Yeah. And he was like, he looked at me like, what is wrong with you? And he was like, it's broken compass. And I was like, what?
Yeah.
Oh.
Those guys.
I was like, well, then who was second? And he was like, well, the other team. And then I was like, oh, what? So who, what did we come? And he was like, well, third, maybe, depending on how all the times go. And I was like, oh gosh, all right, well then that's fine. And then Becca was like, okay. And I was like, oh, that's not too bad, is it?
I was like, you thought we were going to. I thought, I was pretty certain that we were like fifth or something over the line, but obviously there was teams there that weren't ranked or that didn't collect the 8-hour time credit that we had. I thought that was awesome. Considering we were just trying to finish the race.
Yeah.
Right. And that was part of the goal, was you just wanted to get across the finish line and see how you would do. And then so now you come across, you finish, you sit back, you learn where the placement is and all of that. Walk us through, like, your post-race recovery, like, kind of like, it's hard to go on these grand adventures and then all of a sudden, like, you're back at your desk feeling like a schnook, right? What was that like?
I'll start because mine's really quick. We had some really big bushfires start just after the race finished on the west coast of Tasmania. They're quite devastating, knocking out 3,000-year-old forests that we have. So as wilderness paramedics, we're lucky that we get to go and support the firefighters and feel, like we're contributing as like a medical officer there. So I got to go and hang out at their staging area, sit down for like 5 days straight, eat snacks, and do nothing. Becca decides to do a 10-day hike, not long, get another 5 peaks. And how was that, Becca?
Yes. I think I might finally have found the end of the candle wick. I'm pretty good at doing one thing after the next and thinking that it's a good idea when I book these things in. But on this particular trip, it was difficult to start off with, and then my gut just was not happy, and I'm quite certain that it was tail end of the same virus and just me flogging myself too hard and not recovering, and it was absolutely horrible. Yeah. And I'm still, I still wake up in the morning and want to go straight back to sleep. So hopefully I'm not giving myself a permanent chronic fatigue type thing. But, I'm still recovering. I was going to say it was tricky because we really wanted to support all the teams as they came in as well. So I think we had 2 hours of sleep as soon as we finished our race, and then we're up to try and cheer on the teams as they came in, because I think that the best part of adventure racing is that community and
1,000%,
and just cheering on what everybody is doing, because it's not easy for anyone, no matter how fast or slow you race. In fact, the people who are out there the longest are having the toughest time. And we also knew that the women's teams were coming in, and we really, really wanted to be there, especially for the Rootstock girls, because they helped us so much.
And some of the teams are coming in at 3 a.m. So it's we got to get up again. Let's go cheer them on.
Yeah. We've seen that from time to time. You go back, you rest up, and you go back to the finish line. It's there being for each other. And I think that speaks to the community, right? The fact that people will they will navigate their post-race resting and their cleaning up to go back to cheer the teams on as they're coming in. And once again, like a race director being there the entire time, right? Like meeting every team coming across, and there's that huge swath of finishing. It's very clear that you've done that. And so you went through the winning, and you went back and you cheered people on. You had your respective adventures afterwards. And to your point, Becca, you kind of like the end of the candle wick. It's like, it's time to settle down, time to rest. Well, we're sitting here now. It's March. It's springtime here in the Northern Hemisphere, going into winter down by your part of the world. What's the plan going forward? Are other races there? Not there? Other adventures? Like, do you look at your success here as kind of like training for their next adventure when you recover from it? Like, what's up next for you?
My partner and I are about to do a different style of adventure race called the Raid 100. I want to race with him and have a go. I think it's going to be fun. So that's coming up in May for him and I. Becca and I have signed up for 2 more races this year, which is maybe too much. But we actually haven't signed up for Endless Mountains, but we're trying to get there. We're trying to find some sponsorships to get us there because at the moment we can't afford it. We'd love to go and see what it would be like to race in another country. And then we've also signed up for the women's staged race here in Australia. That's run by the Wild Women. And we're hoping to get there too, but we're not sure if it's going to be too much. And maybe just one will work out over the other. We're not sure.
It's 1 week after Endless Mountains, pretty much.
Yeah, that's hard, right? And because there's so much. And I think as adventure racers, we like to take big bites out of the apple, right? We like adventure. We like doing stuff. And very often staggering those events together are difficult to do. But it sounds like with your success at the Legend and your personal growth as a team, that there's something else out there waiting for you. What it's going to be has not yet been decided, but there's more down the road.
Yeah.
I hope we'll always be adventuring together one way or another.
We will be. Yeah, definitely.
Well, what's interesting is that you follow the adventurers into adventure racing dynamic. And sometimes you see the reverse. It's people who become adventure racers who then become adventurers, right? So is that circle of what direction you go. As we close out our time here, we know you have to start your day. It's evening here, and it's getting towards morning there where you are. Give us some closing words on the person listening to this who may be kicking around their first big race. What should their mindset be going forward? What do you encourage them to be like?
I encourage every woman to get on the bike for a long time and see where your chafing is going to occur. Because I wish I had made different decisions when I was younger.
But there's the undercarriage issues that were impacting your success. That
can make you struggle a lot. So learn where you chafe and how you're going to deal with it out there. I think my first conversation with the Wild Women last year was like, how do you prevent chafing in your genitals? And they were so nice, and they gave me so many tips, which was lovely.
Just was over dinner. They were waiting for their dinner to arrive, so perfect in conversation.
They were probably like, oh, okay, like we've all been there. We'll figure it out, right?
Yeah.
No, but you laugh about that question. It's a legitimate thing. You have to know where your body rubs against itself and then how you're going to manage all of that. And that's not a gender specific question, right? Because everyone sort of has to manage that and figure that out. Okay. But I will share with you, though, Em, that is one of the more unique pieces of advice that's been given on the Dark Zone. So I appreciate you for bringing that. Thank you. The honesty. I appreciate it. Becca, how about you? Let's how you could lead off there.
You can see what I love about him is you know what you're going to get. It's always honest. It's always without any beating around the bush.
The bush.
I would probably go nice and broad, and that would be around. You are capable of doing so much more than you even think you're capable of. It is slightly easier when you know something about what you're doing and getting into. Although even if you don't know what you're doing and what you're getting into, just jumping in there with the whole idea about having fun together as a team and nutting your way through it, even if it's not perfect, that's quite an appropriate approach. Don't expect to get it right the first time. If you do, celebrate. I think we're still a bit shocked at how right we happen to get things this time round. But whichever approach you take, it's a huge amount of fun, and it is so worth doing, and you will meet the most amazing people out there. Just do it. The hardest thing, I think, is to find like-minded people that you can convince to do it with you. But I guess that's where the two-person teams have a place. But it's worth doing, even if you think you can't do it, because you can. I think everyone out there did things that they weren't sure whether they could do.
We had a lot of people ask us after the race, well, you're from Tasmania, the race was in Tasmania, was that why you won? Because you know the area. And we do know some of the areas that we went to, and we've been on some of the trails, and we've paddled on that lake before. We've never, ever paddled at nighttime. We've never paddled that lake at nighttime. We don't know how to navigate while paddling at nighttime. And there was a total of 5 local teams, and quite a number of the local teams made quite interesting decisions while they were on course. I think sometimes because they thought they knew better than the race director. And it did hurt having those questions asked. And it took, I think, a couple weeks for me to accept that we did well, just because I think we worked so well together. And each individual attributes made the team work really well. Which, I think still coming to terms with how well we did.
And that it wasn't just a fluke.
Yeah.
We talk sometimes on the show about the idea of imposter syndrome. That no matter how successful we are, we got as you both of you nod your heads, right? And that you have to kind of push. And then here you are, like you won a big time race against some solid teams. Like you mentioned Rootstock. Like Rootstock is a great team. Wild Women, great team. Some of the other teams, some of the mixed gender teams, are great teams. It can't just be because of the fact that you're from that area that somehow you got that was the advantage. There's so many things you had to put together, but still the chirping in the back of your head, it was still biting at you, the fact that it might have been something else.
Yeah. And we just had a week of wilderness training, which is great. We get to do it once or twice a year just to keep up our skills. And I got to lead in one of the activities, which was an off-track bushwalk. I maybe made the wrong route choice, but I led the team off-track bush bashing for 4 hours. And before this race, I would have done that with certain people like Becca. And, she gives me confidence to try those things. But I wouldn't have done it before with all males, being one of the youngest people. And it's really interesting. After this race, I definitely have more confidence in myself.
Yeah, and I think that's a huge point to bring out, and this cuts across ages and cuts across genders, is that when you do things like this, which are challenging and are difficult, which require a lot, that you find out that there's a spillover effect in your day-to-day life.
Yes.
As you both nod your head.
I think as paramedics, we have to provide sympathy, but
equally, in the middle of this adventure race, I'm like, I am going to have no sympathy for anyone who complains about night shift ever again. It's one night shift. It is 14 hours. Yeah. It is not 4 days.
Exactly. Yeah. I'll show you tough.
On that point,
this is tough.
I think Em has come a really long way with the work that she's done with Jen and Jill. And she, I don't know whether she's still properly come to terms with the fact that she used to talk about herself as the person who would enter races and come last or next to last. And I am going to get off this and ban her from doing that ever again, because she is not. She is incredibly fast. I struggle to keep up with her. And she's going to be out there leading, especially now that she's got a really good training regime and she knows that it has the results for her. She turned herself around in 3 months. It wouldn't have been possible without that at all. It's certainly not having fun while doing it at the speed that we did it.
It would be nice to do a race while not being sick.
Even better. Right. It's true. Well, listen, thanks for coming on the show. We appreciate having you here. We want you to start your day. Wonky Donkeys, thank you. I have a feeling we'll be seeing you. Becca, you are completely on the list. When you hit the 500th, you're coming back on. So get those last 5 done. Thanks for coming on the show and have a great day. Thank you very much.
Thanks, Brian. And thanks for the Dark Zone.
Well, there you have it, folks. Episode 149 of the Dark Zone Adventure Racing Podcast. Thank you to Em and Becca of the Wonky Donkeys for coming on to share their story and their background. A lot of fun and a great recording. I appreciate their time, and I hope to get them back on down the road. They are continuing their success, a lot more races, a lot more fun, and I look forward to the day that our paths cross in the real world. Until then, everybody, keep racing, keep training, keep safe, and we'll see you out there. And remember, if you keep racing, we'll keep talking.